Hi, I'm Mike from 1A Auto. We've been selling auto parts for over 30 years. Hi folks, we've got our 2008 Subaru Outback here. It has the 2.5 liter single overhead cam engine. We're going to replace the time belt in it. You can buy this complete time belt kit at 1aauto.com, and you follow along the video, we'll show you how to replace it. I'm going to open the hood, go under here, release lever, there's a little indicator, a little pictograph of the car. And the release lever for the hood is here. Lift up on the hood, find the safety. It's right here above the grille, so push it to the passenger side and just put the prop rod up. You can put your hood in the service position by lifting it up, and then if you follow down here, you put the prop rod in this extra little hole here on the hood, and we'll let that sit there, and now your hood's open higher and you've got some more space to work. We use a 10mm open-ended wrench. We're going to disconnect the negative battery terminal. Just loosen it up. You don't have to thread it all the way off. Just get it to a point where it's loose, and it'll slide off the battery terminal. And we'll put it aside here. Use a trim clip tool that pop these two clips out, holding air in this air intake duct. Just pry them up. And put them aside, you can reuse them. Lift up this intake duct and it'll kind of slide out of the air box, and we can put that aside. We're going to remove the protective covers from the drive belts. I'm going to start with this one over here. I will use a 10mm socket, an extension, and a ratchet. Put it aside so we can reuse it. And grab this one here, and thread it out with my fingers, and I'll put that cover aside with the bolts. I want to remove the metal cover over here that's over the alternator. I'm going to start with this 10mm bolt over here, using the same 10mm socket, ratchet, and extension. Now it won't come off because it's bolted here where the alternator bolt goes through, so I need to loosen that. This is a 12mm head bolt. You can use a 12mm socket, extension, and ratchet. You just have to loosen it up because it's like a U shape to it. And then this will slide right off. And very important to loosen the tensioner for the alternator. You need to loosen the 12mm bolt that's under here before you loosen the tensioning bolt, because otherwise it's not going to move. This locks it in place. So I'll use my 12mm socket, extension, and ratchet. I'll loosen this up, and then I can go up here with it and loosen this. This bolt is new. Yours might be kind of rusty. We had this off before and it already broke from being too rusty. So you'll want to use some sort of rust penetrant on this probably. But just loosen it up. This belt will start to get loose. The alternator will move because it's also loosened here. Should get to a point where it's pretty loose and it'll just come right off. Get it off the crank pulley and just put this belt aside. I'm going to loosen this 12mm nut down here for the tensioner pulley for the AC belt, using a 12mm socket, a ratchet. Get it free, you don't need to take it all the way off. I'm going to spray some rust penetrant on the tensioning bolt. Use the 12mm socket, extension, ratchet, we'll loosen it up. You just want to make sure that you definitely loosen this lock nut first, because if you try to loosen the tensioning bolt, the part that holds this pulley on can either be plastic or sometimes it's a real soft metal and you can break it if you don't loosen that lock nut. Just going to keep loosening it so I can get the belt off. Pop the belt off and put it aside. I'm going to take a 22mm socket and a breaker bar. I need to loosen the crank pulley bolt. I'm going to try doing it without holding the crank pulley right now. I might be able to get it to move. Nope. What we're going to do is remove that crank pulley bolt without using a special tool. But in the process, we're going to ruin the alternator belt, because we're going to loop the alternator belt around the crank pulley and then around the alternator pulley and then down, and it's going to kind of fold over itself. I'm going to wedge it in here, and what you do when you go to loosen this, it's going to tighten up against it. And we're going to pull against it, break that free. Make sure that's loose. And yep, the bolt is loose, so I can spin it out with my fingers. And I can move this a little bit here, get the belt off, but it does ruin the belt, so I put a crease in it. And you'll have to replace this belt, but that is a way to do it without having the special tool to hold the crank pulley. Now that bolt's loose, just thread it out by hand. Pull the crank pulley off. Just kind of wiggle it back and forth, get it loose. Careful not to drop it. So this is your crank pulley and your harmonic balancer, same thing. I'll pull the AC tensioner bracket out of the way using a 12mm socket, extension and ratchet. So there's two bolts, one on the top here, and then one just slightly below it. I might need to take the extension off here. So I get those loose, thread them out by hand. And I'll put that aside so we can reuse it. I'm going to start to remove the plastic covers. There's a little half cover on this side of the engine. There's a 10mm bolt on the top, so I'll start with the top one using the 10mm socket, a short extension, and the ratchet. Put it aside. So there's three holding this cover on. If you slide your hand down the edge here, you can feel the one that's sort of towards the outside. And then there's another one a little bit further down towards the bottom. So I'm going to grab this one that's on the outside and just do the same for the three of them. Loosen them up, take them off. Take the cover off. Now it turns out, since this is a rust belt car, unfortunately, the two bottom ones have these little square nuts that are probably into the plastic cover underneath. And because they've just rusted together, they've been broken off. So somebody had done the timing belt on this car before and they're broken in there. You don't really need them because this does have a nice solid fit, and once it's hanging on there, it just sort of slides back on. Get it lined up. And then that single bolt will hold it there. But for now, we'll take it off and keep going. Get this plastic timing cover, the other half of it. It's a lot wider than this one. It goes from here all the way across to the passenger side. It's got some 10mm bolts along the edge of it that are holding it on, and you're just gonna have to go along and just kind of feel for them. And some of them you might not be able to really see them. They could be kind of hidden, but just go along, find them, take them out, and then remove this cover. Start with this one over here because we can see it. 10mm. A couple of these might be 12s. So if you find that your 10mm doesn't fit on it, try a 12mm socket. But they're really hard to see, and you just go along the outer edge and just feel for them. So the last bolt out, this cover is very loose, and it should come right off. Slide it out around these O2 sensor wires. Put it up. out of the engine compartment and thread the crank pulley bolt back in. Okay. I'm going to use a large ratchet and a 22 millimeter socket, and we're going to turn the engine over clockwise because we want the timing marks to line up. Rotate the crank until all your timing marks line up. This may take a couple revolutions. I'm going to start by checking the timing mark at the crank sprocket. There's a tiny dot here, and then if you follow it up, there should be a line here. They typically have a little white paint on them, and that lines up with this white mark here on the engine block. So you know that the crank is at top dead center. And then if you follow this around, you want to make sure that the cam gear on the driver's side of the car, there's a white mark here and a timing line, and then another one in here, and it lines up with this white mark and cutout in this plastic cover here. So that is lined up there on that side. That's perfect. And then when you come to the passenger side, again, there's another white mark on the timing. This one's a little bit more difficult to see. There's a line here on the cylinder head, and the paint probably wore off. You can just see the indentation, and that one's lined up there. But it's a pretty good indication that since the crank is lined up and this one is lined up and the engine was running really well before, that this is lined up correctly. And with those lined up, we can now take the belt off, because what's actually happening on a Subaru engine here, they're opposed cylinders. It's not actually at top dead center. These timing marks, the way they're lined up, the pistons are pulled into the block so that the valves are kind of in a safe place, but it is still an interference engine, but just for service purposes, they're not in a point where they can hit the pistons. And you want to just make sure that they stay lined up after the belt comes off. They typically do, but just be aware of it. As with all timing belts, take your time, make sure your timing marks are all lined up, and you'll have a good repair. To get the timing belt off the engine, I'm going to remove this smooth idler pulley down here. There's a 14 millimeter bolt down in here, so I'll use a 14 millimeter socket, my ratchet, and break it free. Take that right off. The bolt is inside of it. I'm going to reuse this bolt. Now I can remove the hydraulic tensioner, so it does have tension to it. So I'm going to use the 14 millimeter socket, remove this mounting bolt. It's going to kind of want to go sideways on you because it doesn't have any locking pins nut in there. Now, the washer that was on the back side of it did fall off. There's a little O-ring here. Try to pick that out of here. That's what's holding the bolt on. Keeps it from pulling all the way through. So we also want to make sure we grab, there's a washer here, and you don't want that to sit in there and forget about it because it'll jam things up. So that's on the back side of the tensioner. So make sure you get all the parts out of there of the old tensioner. Now the belt will just come off. Now we have the old timing belt. Remove this idle sprocket, 14 millimeter socket. I'll get it loose. Finish taking it off with my fingers. We have a new one in the kit, so we're going to replace it. I'm going to take it off, and I'm going to put the bolt back in place so I don't confuse the location of it for now. So you can see this one is kind of worn out, the bearing in it. It's got some play to it and it's making some noise. It's time to replace it with the new belt, and the kit comes with one. Remove this idler pulley. I'm going to use a 14mm socket and ratchet. I'll put that bolt back in place so I know where it went. Now here's something you have to be careful of when you're doing this. While I was removing that idler pulley, I maybe bumped this cam gear and it moved. So if you weren't paying attention and you went to put your timing belt on, this side of the engine is out of time. So we're gonna retime it. I'm just gonna use a 17mm socket and a ratchet and just gently turn it back to where it lines up. It actually isn't taking much force. You get lined up with that mark right about there. Here we have our original parts from our vehicle. And this is the brand new timing belt kit components you can get from 1aauto.com. Comes with a new hydraulic tensioner, new idler pulley, new idler sprocket. There's another idler pulley. Comes with thread locker. This is an alignment tool. If you have a manual transmission car, the instructions, you need to use this to align a small little spacer. And of course, a brand new timing belt. So if we look at the original hydraulic tensioner, you can actually see it's a little pushed out there and it's got some oil residue on it. This was starting to fail. It should be nice and dry, even after it's been used, like this brand new one. These brand new timing belt components from 1aauto.com will fit great and work great for you. They're excellent replacements for the original. They'll keep your car running great. I'll reinstall the sprocket that goes down here, so I'll take that bolt out that I put in place so I wouldn't mix them up. So the bolt will go through here, go down, get it started in the engine block with my fingers, make sure it threads in nice and straight and even. Get it threaded all the way down, and then I will torque it. So I'm going to torque that bolt. The specification is 28.5 foot-pounds. I don't have half foot-pound increments on this torque wrench, so I'm just going to round up to 29 foot-pounds. That should be just fine. So I'll turn it until the torque wrench clicks. That's it. I'm going to install the smooth idler pulley. It goes up top here. I'll take this bolt out. Put the bolt through. Get it started with my fingers. It is recessed into the pulley, so I might only be able to get it so far. Now let's grab the socket. You can use the socket on the extension here. I'll just thread it down by hand, then I'll come back and torque it. This one's recessed, I have to use an extension on it. It's going to get torqued to 28.5, but I have my torque wrench set to 29. Once it clicks, you're all set. Before we can install our hydraulic tensioner, the instructions recommend bleeding it. Just due to shipping and stuff, there may be air bubbles in the hydraulic tensioner, so we're going to bleed it. We've got a bench vise set up with a C-clamp. You want to bleed it vertically. Now if you just go to pull this pin, there's a lot of force in here. The pin's probably going to get stuck and you won't get it all the way out because the piston wants to push it up. So before we do that, we'll get it set up here and I'll tighten it just gently and it will let me remove the pin. Put the pin aside because we never use it. Then we'll release this. You have to repeat this 3 times. It's lined up. And just compress it down. You don't have to do it fast. It just kind of goes at a steady rate. When it gets down, the C-clamp is just touching the edge of the aluminum of it to stop. And then that's once. We'll just do this 3 times. Once we get it lined back up, reinstall the locking pin, make sure you put the part that you pull towards the pulley. If you put it in this way, and you go to put it in the car, this is where it bolts in, you're not gonna be able to pull the pin out, and you'll be really annoyed. So make sure it goes on this side with the pulley so that when it's installed in the vehicle, you can remove it. Now this is ready to go in the vehicle. So install the hydraulic tensioner. There's a threaded opening. It's hard to see, it's above the water pump. Fits in place here. We'll get the bolt started and caught, and then I will torque it. So here's something to look out for. I went to install the hydraulic tensioner. I've pushed that locking pin too far through the hydraulic tensioner, and it's contacting the engine block. So I can only thread it in so much, and then it doesn't want to rotate up into place because that tensioner rod should contact this little steel insert in the aluminum engine case. That's what it's going to push against. So it should be more like, if I open this bolt up a little bit. So it should come up and should touch that like that, but then be pushed farther into the engine. So I'm going to correct that and reinstall it. So I went in, I used that C-clamp, I compressed it a little bit, I pulled the pin out so it's just flush with the edge of it. This should give me the clearance I need to install it. So I'm going to go down just above the water pump. There's a threaded hole. It's kind of hard to see, it's up into here. Thread this tensioner in by hand. Get it started. So this is correct now without that pin interfering. This is going to come up here and push against that steel insert. Now I'll torque this bolt, 29 foot-pounds. So very important when you're installing this timing belt. The writing here, you should be able to read it. It should be facing you because there are marks on the timing belt that are going to coincide with the timing marks on the engine and the pulleys. So this one that goes on the passenger side cam sprocket has a specific distance that goes to the crank sprocket, and it is longer than the one on the other side. So if you reverse to this, and we're trying to put it on this way, assuming that these would be the same, they are not. You'll have a tough time getting these to line up, and you might even put the engine out of time. So just make sure when you install it, you can read this writing, and you'll be able to line up these marks as they're supposed to be. Before you reinstall your belt, just make sure that your crankshaft sprocket is nice and clean. This one looks nice and clean. And same for the cam gears. Make sure those are nice and clean. If not, take some brake parts cleaner, spray them down, make sure there's no dirt, debris, oil, coolant. You don't want that to contaminate the belt and ruin it. These are in good shape, so I'm going to go ahead and put the belt on. I'm going to feed the belt into the engine compartment. And I'm going to get it around these O2 sensor wires. Oops. Getting this all lined up is one of the trickier parts. So I'm going to push this down. You want the line to be as close to the time mark as possible. Yeah, that a tooth back, that's too far off. And if we move a tooth forward, that's pretty much perfect. If this doesn't line up perfectly with the time mark, that's okay, as long as the time mark still lines up with the mark on the engine. Those are just a rough guide. The smooth part is going to go around this pulley, and then it's going to go up and line up with the mark on the crankshaft sprocket. I'm going to run it underneath the tensioner. I'm not going to pull that pin yet. Lay it there, get it run around the tooth idler. All right, so if you're having trouble getting the timing belt over this little idler sprocket, a lot of the instructions for these do have you put the sprocket on first. You can loosen it, take it back off, and then we'll take the bolt with it in there. I'll get the timing belt set up in place over the water pump, and it's going to go down, and the mounting hole is right here for the sprocket. So we're going to kind of work the sprocket down in there and get the bolt caught. So all the timing marks are lined up. Just trying to get this sprocket into place. It's fairly tight. It's supposed to be that way, you just have to work at it. I've got it started with my fingers. You're probably going to struggle with it for a bit. Just make sure all your timing marks stay lined up. Once it's in there, you don't want to put any type of oil or silicone spray, nothing on here. It's just gonna, because that can damage the belt. You just want to get it in place. Make sure it's started by hand. The belt will sort of self-center afterwards. I can thread it in by hand nicely so it's not cross-threaded. I'm just going to snug it, and then I'll come back and torque it. And I'll torque this again to 29 foot-pounds. Perfect. One final check before I put on the last idler pulley. This one on the driver's side, timing is lined up. And then we look in the crank. It's also lined up. And then we go to the passenger side, and that is lined up as well. So I'm happy with that. So we'll take the final idler pulley. The lip goes towards the engine. This keeps the belt from slipping towards the engine. Put the bolt through it. Then we go down in. And the hole, it's gonna be hard to see because it's under the belt. It's right about here, kind of diagonal from the other one above it. And put the lip of the pulley underneath the belt, and then kind of lift it up into place. Just get the bolt started by hand, and then you can snug it up and torque it afterwards. I'm just going to take a socket and a little short extension and just tighten it up with my fingers. Now we'll torque this 29 foot-pounds, just like the rest. Once it clicks, you're all set. So now all the new idler pulleys are installed, the new belt's installed, all the time marks are lined up, and the moment everybody's been waiting for is you pull the pin on the tensioner to release it. And that's it. Now we can finish putting the rest of the front of the engine back together. So now I need to remove the crank bolt that I threaded back in there to turn the engine over with. So I'm just using the 22mm socket and the long ratchet. That shouldn't be on there too tight, but it might have a little bit of force to it. So I'm just going to hold this passenger side cam gear with my hand. Give it a couple quick hits like that to get it loose. This is the inside of our timing cover that's going on the front of the engine. It has some rubber seals that go around the edge of it. Now, when I took these off, I did clean it up, and then this rubber must swell up over time because this is definitely where it goes, but it's like too big now. So all they really do is keep out a little bit of dirt and water. It's not a huge deal. What I'm more worried about is that if this doesn't fit that well and I got to put this on and I'm not paying attention, this might end up inside and then get wrapped around the timing belt, and that will cause a huge problem. So for what this is, I'm just going to take it off. I'm going to leave it off just so it doesn't get caught in the timing belt. I feel better with it out. You could get replacements, but it's not really a big deal. This top one is still sitting okay, so we're going to reuse this top one. Slide this cover into place. this seal is totally falling off. All right, I'm gonna take that top seal off too. It doesn't fit well. We don't really need it. I'd be more concerned with that seal doing more harm than good if it gets caught into a moving timing belt. So I'll take these shouldered bolts, start threading them in. Just line up. Just gonna go along and get all these bolts caught, and we'll come back and tighten them. Just gonna go along, tighten up all the bolts. These don't have to be over tightened. Once you feel them get tight, you just stop and just go along and find all of them and tighten them up. We get our final cover back on there. Now, if your two bolts aren't rusted in here like ours are, you'd want to put these two in at the bottom. But we don't have those, so I'm just going to hang it on the top here, get into this groove, and slide it in place. That one uses this style bolt. Reinstall the harmonic balancer, and we're going to find the keyway for it, match that up, make sure the key should be in there on the crankshaft, and we'll put in our new crank pulley bolt, and no thread locker on here, just some light grease or oil, so there's some on there. So I'll get this into place. So I'm going to try to line it up. There it is. Once you find it, it'll slide right on. Get the bolt started. We're going to use the alternator belt that we already ruined. And we're going to put this on here in the opposite direction the way we used it to take it off. Set the initial torque at 33 foot-pounds. Clicks, you're all set. Use our larger torque wrench, and we're going to torque this to 133 foot-pounds now. Once it clicks, you're all set. So now I'm going to reach down with my regular ratchet and just turn this a little bit backwards just to release that. We'll take that off. That works really well, but you can see it definitely ruins the belt. Put the air conditioning tensioner pulley assembly back on. So let's get the two bolts. They mount here. Get them started by hand. So now I'm just going to tighten these bolts down. There's two, just snug them up, and then go just a little bit tighter. You don't have to kill them. So once you feel them get tight, it should be good enough. I'll reinstall air conditioner belt. That goes on the inside. And down around the tensioner, up over the AC compressor. Make sure it's sitting in all the pulley ribs. There's a 12mm socket, ratchet. And it's pretty long. I'm starting to tighten this up, and I can feel the belt tension starting to increase. So I'm just going to go a little bit more. You don't want to over tension it. Just have a little bit of deflection, but you also don't want so much that it slips on you. That feels pretty good. Then we go down. Need to tighten the locking nut here on the pulley. And just so it gets tight, then you stop. The AC belt is tensioned. We're going to install our new alternator and power steering belts. I'm going to start on the crank. Whatever way is easier to get it on here. Make sure it's fully seated. Sometimes that holds you up. There it is. Around all the pulleys. Tension the alternator up. The tensioner bolt, we had trouble with it before. It was sticking and replaced it. And there's a little bit of copper never sees on there. And again, just check this belt. That feels pretty good. Now we'll tighten down the lock bolt here. So now you've got to put your protective cover on here. With these little ears, they're going to go around this bolt here. Kind of goes in between this washer and this other washer. See if I can get this out with the gloves on. I'll just slide into here. It lowers down. You can actually put this bolt in so it's adjusted. Just put it in my hand right now. Now I'll tighten up the alternator mounting bolt. Once you feel it get tight, it should be all set. You can tighten up this bolt here. Feel like it tight, just stop. So this little plastic cover, go over the AC compressor. Install this bolt here. This one installed. These don't have to be super tight, they're just holding on this plastic. Once it stops, it's tight enough. And the same for this one. And that one's all set. Reinstall the intake duct, slide into the air box. We'll line it up on the radiator support. Push the little push clips back in. Reconnect the battery. The job is complete.
Thanks for watching. Visit us at oneauto.com for quality auto parts, fast and free shipping, and the best customer service in the industry.